Isn't it great to be here? I get to say that every week, and I'm probably gonna, because I think our souls need to remember that, right? That we are blessed to gather together. That we are blessed to get together in this wondrous thing called church, where we get to lay down our lives for each other. And even the hard parts of church are good. You know, sometimes we'll fail each other here. We'll let each other down. We'll even be mean to each other. God forbid. But it happens, right? I mean, Paul wouldn't have to say, don't eat each other if people weren't kind of eating at each other, right? But even those moments are good to endure because we get to practice the self-giving love that Christ teaches us to have when I have to bear with somebody that's chewing on me, right? We are thrown in together with each other, and we are so blessed to have one another in Christ Jesus. I don't know if you take the Jesus part out, it's maybe not as much fun, but because Christ is here and at work among us, we are so blessed to gather together and be together with each other. And you know, if you're visiting, that's happening here. Christ is forming people's lives here. People are different after years with this group than they would be without this group, because God has chosen us and is at work among us and is blessing us in Christ Jesus and is using us to be a blessing to each other. So if you're visiting and you're looking for a church home, hope you feel like you found it. We want to get to know you afterwards. We really would like to talk to you when we're done with what we're doing here. And if you're just passing through, well, welcome. We hope you feel like you found an oasis in the desert, because those of us who camp here, we do. We are just so very blessed to be here. I'm continuing a third in a series of sermons on cross-training this morning. We're looking at being people who are shaped by the cross of Christ Jesus and by His invitation to come and join with Him in living a life marked by the cross. So that's what we're headed into. And the first time I ever talked about this, I talked a good bit about my brother. You remember this? If you were here with me? My brother who runs 100-mile races. I kid you not, 100-mile races. He runs 100 miles in 24 hours. If I were to try to do that, I would be dead at about mile 4. I know that because I've been walking with my coach, Kent, who's lost his voice. It might be more fun to walk with him now because then both of us couldn't talk. Because funny to me. A little funny to you. Anyway, my brother who does this, you know, one time I was talking to him about it, and he said that he didn't make this point, but he was in a class where a guy pointed him out and said something along the lines of this. He said that Richard is willing to pay the price to do that. He does today what other people won't, so that tomorrow he can do what other people can't. Does that make sense? Do you know what that means? Entering into a training regimen where you do what other people don't do with their lives. Other people aren't doing this stuff. And why on earth would you want to live this way? Because I tell you, it hurts to run. I went for a run yesterday, found that out. You know, I hadn't been in a while. I went out again, and it hurts, man. My legs are a little sore. By the way, if I fall, Drew, could you, because my legs are a little wobbly. Good, thank you. It hurts. Why would anybody want to do this? But see what he can do? What he can do is, that's like humanly impossible, but apparently it's not humanly impossible. It's humanly improbable. Right? But if you do today what others won't do today, then tomorrow you will be able to do what others can't. And for us, it's not running 100 miles. I mean, maybe it is. If you want to run 100 miles, good for you. More power to you. I'll be satisfied if I can, run a mile without my arm tingling. But, that's not what we're here to focus on, right? What is the thing that you want to be able to do that others can't? Maybe loving your enemies? Wouldn't it be great to be able to do that? Because most people can't do that. In fact, most people live their lives with their enemies running their lives. They don't even know it. You know, they push their buttons, they make them mad, they go home grumpy, and they're mean to their family because of their enemies. Wouldn't it be wonderful to be able to love your enemies instead of being like that? Wouldn't it be great to be able to pray for people who hurt you while they're hurting you? You know, because we have a master who did that with the nails through his wrists. You know, I get grumpy if somebody says something mean about me. He's got nails in his arms and in his feet. And what is he saying? Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. While they're doing it to him. Wouldn't it be great to be the kind of person who could pray for those who persecute you while they're persecuting you? Wouldn't it be great to be that kind of person? Wouldn't it be wonderful to be able to forgive everything, always? Bearing the burden of a grudge is a terrible burden. Who wants to be eaten up by their hatred of another person? Raise your hand. I don't see any hands. My hand's waving around a little bit, but I don't want that either. You know, wouldn't it be great to be able to take a wound and give forgiveness? I mean, not that I want to take wounds, but in this broken world, I will. How do I get to the point where I can be like that man? Because that's what I want. I want to become like him. He is my master. I want to follow. And folks, he did not go to the cross as just, hey, this is what I think I'll do on Friday. He went to the cross because he had lived his entire life a certain way. He had lived his life ready for this every single day. And those who follow him live lives marked by cross-training. We've been looking at a specific aspect of cross-training in this series, and that is the concept of service. Discipleship as service. Being Jesus' disciple. By the way, that's Jesus' disciple, not mine, not yours, and somebody, I don't disciple you. We are together disciples of the Lord. Right? He is the Lord. We are His disciples. But He will define that in light of service, at least in part. A good part of what it means to be Jesus' disciple is to become a servant to other people. To become, in fact, a slave to other people. A slave, he'll say. A servant, the word he uses for servant is diakonos. We get our word deacon from that. And it originally kind of meant something along the lines of table waiter. But a table waiter isn't just a table waiter in this word. It's also a loving caregiver. A person who gives their life and without receiving benefit for it because of love. A slave is a person whose will is governed by the will of another. My will may not be to do that. But it doesn't matter what my will is because I am a doulos. I'm a slave. And he's going to say, this is what marks the life of a disciple. Why would anyone want to do that? Well, do you want to run 100 miles or not? Do you want to do today what others won't so that you can do what others can't? Do you want that? Because this is the process by which the Lord transforms us and changes us. And folks, it hurts. It's hard. But we need changing, which is what we looked at last week. We looked at this reality, the nature of the fall, and how significantly it has changed us. We were created to be creatures of love, and we have become creatures that are selfish. We now have the knowledge of good and evil. And tell me a bad thing that you do that does not rise from that knowledge. Each of us wants to establish our own good, and we seek a good life for ourselves. And if it hurts you along the way, who cares? Or even if it hurts me along the way, who cares? I think it's good, I want it, and I have the right to determine what good and evil is. If you seem to be a threat to me, you are now evil, and I will either destroy you or shun you. Why? Because you're a threat to my good life. I must protect me. And instead of trusting God for the good life that He will give, we seek to establish it on our own. This is what we must move from. And I'll tell you, a heart like that does not want to serve anybody. Anybody. Because I don't want to be someone else's slave. My will gets to determine what's good and evil. My will, my wants, my desires. And the moment I start having to care for somebody else, then all of that is threatened. Which is precisely why He calls us into service. So that this might die. And this morning we're looking a little bit about the nature of freedom. The freedom of the slave. Only the loving slave is truly free. Think about this for just a moment. Adam's nature, Adam's heart beats in the chest of all of us. We are all influenced by the food poisoning that Adam took on. We, all of us, want our own good or evil. We want to be the source of our own good life, not God, me. I will get the good life for myself. And so I will chase what I think will satisfy me. And every temptation that comes knocking on my door, if it looks good enough, I'm going to go for it. Right? Now, if you set that kind of heart free within you, what kind of person would you be? If you just let that run rampant, what will you be like? On the other hand, if the Spirit of Christ is in you, and you let that go free, what will you do? Think about those two questions. If I let Adam do whatever Adam wants, Adam that is in me, what will I do? How will I behave? And if I let Christ free, what will I do? How will I behave? Are they different? As you reflect on your own behavior and the things that you've done the last week, last month, the last year, your lifetime, think about the times when you've been governed by Adam, governed by your fallenness. How did you act? Most of us, I can think of yesterday if I want. Or if you think about Christ. The reality is, both those questions are about freedom. Right? If Adam is free, Adam will do things. If Christ is free, Christ will do things. So what's the difference between these two understandings of freedom? If I just let Adam go, what does he do? If I let Christ go, what does he do? What's the difference? Well, we're dealing with different understandings of freedom. If you look up freedom in Google Images, we have a pretty good idea of what freedom is. You know, we know it. This is not the only thing that you see on Google Images, but this is a lot of what you see on Google Images when you look up freedom. I mean, you also get like nice little quotes about freedom, but this is the dominant image for freedom as we understand it, as we broken humans understand it, at least in the Western world where we have access to cameras and the internet. This is how we understand freedom. All right? Now, freedom is mostly understood by us as opposition to slavery. It is understood in opposition to compulsion. Being compelled to do what I don't want to do. Being compelled to do things I don't want and being restricted from doing things I do want to do. That's the opposite of freedom. When I am free, nobody gets to tell me what to do. When I'm free, I get to do whatever I want. And that's what these pictures are telling us. This is what freedom looks like for us. Arms thrown to the sky, chest thrown out, and I am free. I want to take just a second and analyze these pictures with you, just for a second, because it tells us so much about freedom as we understand it as broken people. I want you to notice how many of these people are facing the camera. They have their back to you. All of them. Do you notice how many people are in each picture? One. They are all of them alone. They are all of them alone in a beautiful place. Every single one of them. Free with wide open space and open to the sky. And their arms are held open. In fact, one of them even's got chains on their arms, but those chains are probably made of paper just based on how easily they're holding their arms out with those huge chains. But also, they're broken. And I get to do whatever I want to do. That's the concept of freedom here. How much will this understanding of freedom lead you to other people? Other people are the problem. The only reason that this person wants to be around other people is if they will do what they want. You be my servant. You make me happy. I want to be with you. Otherwise, get away and give me the sunshine. Let me have the fresh air so that I can finally be what I want to be. I want no demands on me. I don't want anybody forcing their will on me. I don't want any inconvenience. I don't want to have to get up in the middle of the night. I want to throw my arms up at the sunrise. Do you see this? Now, our Master has a somewhat different understanding of freedom. This right here is, this right here is what Adam looks at as freedom. Let me have my way. Let me have my own good life. Let me enjoy myself. Let me have my sunset. Let me have my blue sky. My. But when our Master looks at freedom, what He looks at is freedom to love. Freedom to give yourself away. Freedom to give yourself to another person without fear of that going badly. Even if it does go badly, you are still free to do it. The freedom to care about other people than yourself. The freedom to have your attention off of yourself. And wouldn't it be wonderful to have all that anxiety set down? Wouldn't it be great to not have to pursue your own life? Oh, but if I don't pursue my own good life, I won't get the good life. Wrong. That's what Adam thinks. The only way to the good life is to put all that behind you and care about others. To get down on your knees with a basin and a towel and to wash stinky feet. That's it. The only life that we don't regret is the life that we give away. The only life that we look back on and we say, that's when I really felt meaningful. That's when my life was really purposeful. That's when I really felt like I was being what I was supposed to be, is when I'm serving other people. It's almost like we were created to be like that. In fact, it is. This is a human being truly free. When they are free, not from others, but for others. Free to live life without having to establish good for myself. Free from evil and free from having to fix myself and just take care of other people. This is the true freedom, which is what Paul talks about in our text today. When Paul, I have several things to unpack before I get to our text. I forgot these slides. The difference between Adam's freedom and Christ's freedom is love. That's it. At the center of Adam's freedom is the desire to have everything for himself. At the center of Christ's freedom is the desire to give Himself to others. That's the difference. If you boil it down, there are many other differences. But at the center of who Jesus is love. And love's nature is to be rejecting of Adam's understanding of freedom at the foundation stones. Love is going to accept infringements upon its rights. Adam can never accept that his rights might be infringed upon. He can't do it. Because the moment that his rights are infringed upon, he's in chains. Don't tell me I have to do that for you. Why doesn't somebody else do that? I don't want to do that. That's Adam's nature. But love says, yes, of course I will get up in the middle of the night. Yes, of course I will help you. Because I love you. Love does not demand its own way, but it allows its will to bend to the will of the other. Not if the other's will is wretched and evil. I don't let you abuse or hurt anybody. I'm not going to bend my will like that. But if it's your needs, your desire, and they're healthy, then I bend to it because of love. And love makes this natural. It makes it that where you can get up in the middle of the night and take care of your kids. Those of you who have kids, you know that's what you did. And that's what you are meant to be with everybody, everywhere, all the time, because you're meant to love everybody, everywhere, all the time. Love willingly takes the role of the servant. That's what love does. It doesn't have to think about it. It chooses slavery. And because it is chosen, it truly is freedom. Love chooses this. And once I've decided to love, now I am really free that my life can be for you instead of rejecting you. That's what Christian service, Christian discipleship, Christian freedom looks like. Which is why Paul says this: you were called to freedom, brothers. You were called to freedom. Only do not use your freedom as an opportunity for the flesh. Paul is saying if you let Adam do whatever Adam wants, then your freedom will be rejecting of others. Their preferences don't matter. Their desires don't matter. What matters is what I want. And like in this context, I want to sing these songs and I want it my way. Really? And if it's not my way, well, I'm going to get real grumpy and mad at those other people who aren't doing it my way. Really? You're free to do that. You are free. But you're using your freedom as an opportunity for the flesh. Well, I didn't like what he said, and I'm going to get all grumpy about it, and I'm going to get mean. Really? Don't use your freedom to feed yourself. Don't use your freedom that Christ has given you to stand there at the sunrise going, woohoo, it's all about me. Because you're doing that, you're worshiping the wrong God. You're worshiping the God that Adam learned about when he ate from that tree, and that's yourself. Don't be like that. Don't use the freedom that Christ has given you to feed your own flesh, but through love, serve one another. This is what the Christ has shown us in how He lived and what the Christ has called us to. Christ did everything that He did out of love. He loves humanity. He loves you and He loves everyone else. And He loves the people that love Him and He loves the people that don't love Him. And He loves everybody. And everything that He did was to give Himself away so that He might rescue a people for Himself and call them to Himself. And this is how we are called to be. And when you love, you don't have to decide, well, do I use my life in service or not? No. If you love the other person, you're going, well, what do they need? If I'm going to help that person really be alive, what do I need to do to help them? And that's what I'm going to do, because love serves. End of story. In fact, he'll say, this is what God has been leading us to all along. The whole Bible is about this. He says the law is fulfilled in this one word. Love your neighbor as yourself. And when you love your neighbor as yourself, you say, okay, well, if that were me, how would I want that person to treat me? Would I want them talking to me the way I just talked to them? Would I want them getting grouchy? Would I want them pulling away from me like that? What would I want? And you love them that way. This is discipleship. It is following Christ in the lifestyle that Christ lived, for the motives that Christ lived it. But when we don't, he says, if you bite and devour one another, watch out that you're not consumed by one another. We cease to be Christians and become zombies. Creatures that eat each other. And this, folks, is precisely what Adam's lifestyle is all about. For Adam, the other person is food. The other person is resource. The other person is tool for my pleasure, because I am free and my life is about me. And so, do you make me happy? Great, I'll spend time with you. Do I enjoy your company? Wonderful. I will love you. Are you irritating? Goodbye. Because you're not good. You're evil. I'm done with you. And I will consume those I love, and I will devour and destroy those I hate. And this is the nature of Adam's freedom. It is not free. That's what we do when we look like this. We go, it's all about me. Let me sing in the sunshine. Let me glory in my own existence and the wonder of my life. But you were called to something greater than that. You were called to a community. Do you see that Adam can never establish a community? That as long as your back is to the other, and as long as you're chasing yourself, and as long as you are running away, you can never be in a loving community with another. And folks, it is so American to be free. I mean, at the center of our culture is this idea of liberty. And liberty says, I get to do whatever I want. I have no responsibility for you. You're responsible for you. I don't want anything to do with you. That's Adam's way. That's our culture is just as broken as any culture on this earth. But not here. It will not be so among us because we are called by someone greater than George Washington and Ben Franklin. We are called by Jesus Christ, who came to this place and did that. Our God washed the feet of stinky men to call us to say, okay, I've made an example, you do the same. You go and do this too. And now we live our lives saying, what do you need? Because I have the freedom to give it to you. I have the freedom to take care of you. I have the freedom to love you and bless you. And this is our way of life. Because it is the way charted before us by the Christ. Are you following? Is this your way of life? Are you living this too? And if you look at yourself and you say, you know what? No, not so much. I'm really living for me. Well, the steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. He is so faithful to us. And if you're stumbling in your discipleship, get up and begin walking the course again. Run if you can, but if you can't, walk or even crawl to follow Messiah Jesus. Because this is the way of life that is worth living. And if you look into your heart and you know this isn't the way you're going, maybe you haven't made a commitment to Him. Well, folks, He's already made it to you. And He invites you today into the waters of baptism. You can do this today. And if you haven't taken Christ on in baptism, the church is calling to you. Come. It may be that you have been living, but you've got some big sin that's a chain around your ankle and it's slowing you down. And you want people to pray for you that your walk can get better. Well, we will. And it may be that you came into this place suffering, carrying a load of pain on your shoulders, and you need the prayers of the church. Well, if that's you, let us know. If this morning you're subject to the invitation of God, why don't you come right now while we stand and sing?